Yesterday, I went over the top teams to rebuild in the Eastern Conference on NHL 23, and today it's the Western Conference's turn. I don't want to say this list was easier to make, but the West does have some really bad teams making for some fun rebuilds. Be sure to let me know if I missed any underrated rebuilds and why you think that in the comments to get a discussion going below. Without further ado, let's get into this list. Number 5, it's the Anaheim Ducks. Now, the Anaheim Ducks have only been around since the 93-94 season when they were branded better as the Mighty Ducks, but they won the Cup in their first season as the more simple Anaheim Ducks back in 2006-2007. However, this team hasn't made it to the last 4 postseasons, and it's far different from the Ducks of old. Now, this is a team without a face of the franchise. The recently signed former Ranger Ryan Strome has the lengthiest contract, leading me to believe that a franchise with the Ducks will require a lot of evaluation to pick out the right guys to give the extensions to in the next 1 or 2 years. I guess the current face would be considered Cam Fowler, who has elite potential. He's a 30-year-old veteran defenseman with 4 years left on his contract. But to me, it should be center Trevor Zegras, who will 100% need that long extension, as this is his final year under contract. Right winger Troy Terry is another elite potential 25-year-old player to be excited about, and they join Jamie Drysdale as the young elite potential players. Drysdale will also need that extension next year. Outside of that, with Strome is another former Ranger in Kevin Shattenkirk, who at 33 is likely done in a Ducks uni after the year if I was to take over, and former Devil Adam Henrique, who is 32 and signed for 2 more seasons. Money will need to be freed up and used correctly to infuse this team with youth and potential, because they are set at goalie with the elite John Gibson signed over the next 5 years. So can you do what it takes to get John Gibson his ring, and do what it takes to reset the Ducks and make them a contender once again? Number 4, the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, the Chicago Blackhawks are bad right now. The only reason they're at 4 and not higher on the list is they are a 6-time winner of the Stanley Cup, including 3 from 09 to 15. But now, it's taken a long enough time that their 3 first-round exits and 4 missed postseasons since that last cup is enough to warrant the rebuild credit here. The Blackhawks won 48 games in the regular season of their last cup win, and they've won a combined 52 in the last 2 seasons. Their franchise players from back then are aging, and Patrick Kane, who's 33, and Jonathan Toews, who's 34, and both of them are making $10.5 million per year. After this season, however, the Blackhawks can open up a host of cap space by not re-signing either of them and rolling forward with a new face of the franchise in 27-year-old defenseman Seth Jones, who has an 8-year contract on the books. Blackhawks are in a stage right now where their draft picks haven't really been impact guys in a while, and the last great pick, Alex DeBrincat, isn't even a part of their organization anymore. The goalie situation is just not good. They have Peter Mrazek, who is an okay starter for now, but the backup Alex Stalock is older and worse, and they could benefit in bringing along a nice young talent there to maybe take over eventually. Can you take Chicago out from the midst of that sexual assault scandal they had a couple of years ago and bring them back to those days where they competed year in and year out? Number 3, the Seattle Kraken. The Seattle Kraken do not have the start that the Vegas Golden Knights had as an expansion team. They are one of the worst teams in the NHL, and they surely make a terrific rebuild. But what makes them that way? Well, to me, center Matty Beniers is the 19-year-old player with elite potential that you want to build around. Everyone else, you're going to have to decide if they're a piece to the puzzle or not, because they certainly aren't anything to build around, so to speak. You have a chance with Seattle, and the main reason they're number 3 and not higher is because their top 3 players are in their prime right now. They're all signed for 4 or 5 seasons. That's the top line of Oliver Bjorkstrand, Jared McCann, and Andrei Burakovsky. The next line of Jaden Schwartz, Jordan Eberle, and Yanni Gord may all be in their 30s, but they are signed for at least 2 years as well, so there's longevity to the team if you can inject the bottom lines with all of the youth and the defense. That really needs the help. At goalie, there are a lot of sergeants with no captains. Philip Grubauer, Chris Drieger, and Martin Jones are all solid, but none of them are great goalie. The challenge comes in injecting youth in the right places while being smart with the money, as every single one of the top 10 skaters on this team are making at least $4 million per year. So, can you make the proper GM moves to get to the Kraken to take over the league by storm? Number 2, the Arizona Coyotes. Now, the Arizona Coyotes are on this list year in and year out, and I'm sorry to the Coyotes fans. There's potential here, though. Winger Clayton Keller and defenseman Jacob Chychrun are two key building blocks signed together for the next 3 seasons. There just isn't a ton of talent outside of that, even though I think center Barrett Hayton can be a solid young piece at just 22 years of age. The depth in Arizona is severely lacking, and they really need to be not just overhauled, but just hauled in the first place. Unload players that have no future here, bring in younger guys, and make some splashes in the free agent market to turn this team around as quickly as possible. Karel Vejmelka is just 26 and a solid starting goalie, but I'm not entirely sure if he could be the elite goalie that you need to make a deep run in the postseason. There's a lot of talent needed here, and I believe it's easily the worst roster in the NHL. And that's why, even though I really hate putting the Coyotes on this list year after year after year, I have to. They warrant it. Arizona came into the league after relocating from Winnipeg when the Jets originally left, and since then they have made 9 playoff appearances in 25 played seasons, with 1 conference finals loss to the LA Kings to show for it. Can you save them? Please. And finally, number 1, the San Jose Sharks. Now, the San Jose Sharks have the coolest logo in the NHL, and I won't hear otherwise. They also have a rich history of making the postseason 21 times in their 30 played seasons. They do have the snake-bitten history of losing 4 of their 5 Western Conference finals and losing their only Stanley Cup appearance. They've been so close so many times, and now they've missed the playoffs for 3 straight years. Yeah, they've missed 9 playoffs in their history, including the last 3. That's wild. Center Tomas Hertl is their guy. They just gave him an 8-year extension valued at $8.1 million a year, and he doesn't even have elite potential in the game. At 28 years old. Something tells me that contract's going to go bad after a little bit. The guy who might be worth giving that money to is winger Timo Meier, who does have elite potential at 25 years old, and he's going to need it after season number 1 because his contract expires. Big decisions will need to be made going forward with old vets like center Logan Couture, defenseman Erik Karlsson, and defenseman Marc-Edouard Vlasic, who are all 32 or older, and they're signed for big money for the next 4 years. That's a lot of cap committal to 3 fallen stars. The Sharks have tried for too long to keep that winning window open, and with it seemingly shut a few years ago, it's time to tear some things down and make this team younger and better. They have a goalie who can play, too, in Kaapo Kähkönen, who's just 26, and a very solid starter. His backup, James Reimer, isn't even bad for spot starts as an aging veteran either. Can you get one of the coolest teams in the NHL back to being a perennial contender? And can you do them one better and actually get them that damn Stanley Cup that's been eluding them for years upon years? Did I miss any team you feel is prime for a rebuild in the Western Conference? Make sure you check out the Eastern Conference top 5 here if you missed that, and be sure to let me know your thoughts on which team you're going to be able to play with for franchise on NHL 23 in the comments section below. Thank you, channel members. Check out the Eastern Conference top 5 here if you missed that, and be sure to let me know your thoughts and which team you're playing with for franchise on NHL 23 in the comments section below. Be sure to not let me know how bad my pronunciation is. I already know that, genius! Thank you, channel members, especially our franchise quarterbacks T-Clink24 and Christian Horn, and special shout out to our only general manager, Matthew Hackett. Love ya. Watch some more content right here, fam.